that goes by and there's all these like, remember September 11th things, I think, yes, but the September 11th that I think ought to be remembered is the September 11th of 1973, and that's the story of Chile. Down the coast of South America rolls Chile, long and green. A land once ruled by Inca that was colonized by Spain. The colony claimed independence in 1818, but they let the inequalities of conquest still remain. By the early 1900s, Chile mined its copper ore, and the U.S. businessmen that owned the mines were billionaires. And while a few wealthy Chileans owned all land, the rest were poor. But democracy brought votes, and voting everybody shares. So by the 50s, votes brought socialists like Salvador Allende, who asked why Chile's mines should be for U.S. businessmen. And he said, we don't want violence, may our voting change things gently. And though he lost the race for president 3 times, he ran again. And the 60s generation saw the votes for changes grow, as the peasant Victor Jara sang of better days to come. And the 60s president did make some changes, but too slow. And in the vote of 1970, this time Allende won. In the US, Kissinger and Nixon heard this and exploded. We're supposed to love democracy, but really, who they kidding? Our corporations make the rules. Who cares what Chile voted? Allende must be smashed, but our involvement must stay hidden. So in secret, Nixon asked that Chile's army stop Allende. But Chile's General Schneider told them absolutely not. So the CIA contacted lesser men in Chile's army, and in October 1970, these men had Schneider shot. With Schneider gone, new generals came who weren't quite as loyal, but still Allende trusted they'd respect the people's vote. And a new vote now said Chile owned the mines on Chile's soil, and the wealth of copper now could fund the new laws that they wrote. So wages rose for workers, education spread like fire. There was milk for hungry children, landless peasants now had farms. And Allende promised peace, but Chile's rich called him a liar. While anti-Allende forces blew up roads and gathered arms. Then the truckers went on strike to protest rules they hadn't chosen. And the owners of the factories made all factories shut down, while the CIA sent funding to the truckers to stay frozen. No food could reach a city, and no supplies could reach a town. But the new tool, CyberSign, created new kinds of connections, where the public linked in real time what they need and what to get. Now families and factories could just share their own directions, and that's how Chile solved the shutdown with the world's first internet. But the new VP of Pepsi owned the news and televisions. He said peasants were bandits, and Allende was the worst. And respectable Chileans have to make a bold decision, cause our rich life will get ruined if Allende's not stopped first. With the army's new commander, then Augusto Pinochet, they knew if they took charge, the US would be their supporter. They knew before elections came, they must strike right away. Then they could claim, we're Chile's heroes, bringing back old law and order. So on the 11th of September in the year 73, in a burst from tanks and planes, the presidential building burned, and the military shut the country down so silently. Allende's government was killed before the news returned. Then all those months through Chile spread the prison camps and murders. Hopeful voices put to torture, pulled apart to disappear. Victor Jara's hands were crushed to stop his music being heard, and with his death there died all voting for the next 17 years. And America and Britain loved how Pinochet saved business. But what are people worth to them when push comes down to shove? The giant thefts of history are always what begins this, and if the people vote for change, they feel the fist beneath the glove. Pinochet stole millions while he ruled by wealth and terror over people who'd once voted, using no guns and no fists. Where thousands who dreamed different now just disappeared forever for the fatal crime of thinking that democracy exists. So went Chile's dreamers, so went Jara and Allende. So came death, though Chile's path of peace is how they got there. But they'd seen history's maps of greed and hate and sailed a new way. And seeking someplace new, sailors that die don't mean it's not there. Thanks a lot. We're Jeffrey Lewis and the Voltage.